Hello guys, welcome back to this channel. Today, we are ranking all MCU heroes. Perfect shirt to wear. I wore it back in my MCU video, or MCU ranking video. I thought it was the perfect timing. Anyway, not much else to say, but we can pretty much get right into it. This is about my third biggest video I've ever done, other than the Bond and MCU rankings, so this is probably third. This is definitely the longest ranking I'm probably gonna ever do. But not much else to say, but we can get right into it. Ranking dead last, at number 47, we have Battlestar. I mean, this character doesn't do much for me overall. In Falcon and Winter Soldier, he's okay. I kind of like the novelty of him sort of giving us, like, the good side of John Walker. And then even, like, episode 4, he quotes. And that's interesting. And we don't really see, like, the good side of John Walker, not the bad side. We do see the bad side. And he kind of exemplifies, I don't know if that's a word, but whatever, the good side of John Walker that we don't really see. I do think he's kind of interesting, but then he gets kind of killed off right in the middle of it. And I guess John Walker gets his revenge, at least sort of. But overall, not a very prominent character in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and he doesn't do much overall, so he comes in dead last. Coming in number 46, we have Quicksilver. I think the problem with this one is not so much that he's just not an interesting character or a dull character. It's more so that they just killed him off in Age of Ultron. They introduced him within about 20 to 30 minutes of him becoming a hero. They just kill him off. The sacrifice moment, it's a great moment in the movie. I think I would have been okay if they killed him off maybe by Infinity War, but seriously, come on. Like, the one thing I do think works about him being killed off, it does set Wanda down a dark path into Civil War, and then it really just changes her forever, and it really sparks the character, especially by the time you get to WandaVision. It makes it really interesting, especially when it involves Quicksilver's death and Vision's death. It kind of makes her more human. I think, in general, the events that happen to Quicksilver's death do make Wanda a better character, but they killed this character off too quick. Coming in number 45, we have Mantis. This is one that's always been at the bottom since she's been introduced. She just doesn't do that much. I like that scene in Infinity War where she puts Thanos to sleep, in that scene where she wakes Thor up. I like her a bit more in Infinity War where she does a few more things. She does nothing in the finale of Endgame. Although, I mean, they could do some more stuff with her, explain what kind of creature she is. I don't remember if they did anything like that in Guardians 2. And I think her whole character arc involving being a little bit responsible for all these deaths of Star-Lord's brothers and sisters that he didn't know about. It's just not really that compelling at all. It's just it makes her I don't know what the word is, silent, I guess, or I don't really know. Next up at number 44, we have New Groot. My problem with New Groot, I kind of like Baby Groot. He's kind of cute. Some of the stuff they have him do, have him getting tortured by Taserface, doesn't really work for me. Other stuff, involving him, it's just not very, it's kind of distasteful. Kind of like the movie, I would say. I just don't care for Baby Groot that much. He's okay, I guess, in Guardians 1. My biggest problem, the reason why this character is driven about 10 spots back from what they did to him, I hate that, those, teenage angst that they give him in that post-credit scene. Although, it's kind of funny in that scene, actually. But when you get to Infinity War, it seemed just playing this game this whole time. He seems more like an angsty teenager than Peter Parker. And that should not be the case. I just don't like New Groot. They haven't given that much to him. My favorite part about him in general is that his arm makes up Stormbreaker, and I like that part of it. But other than that, pretty much nothing much I like about him. Coming in number 43 was Shuri. This is where he kind of started getting okay characters rather than characters I don't really like. Overall, Shuri, my problem with her is that they just give her make her way too intelligent, give her too much intelligence, I guess. And overall, they make her much smarter than people like Banner or even Stark, I'd say, who are meant to be much smarter than the average human being, I guess. At least 20 times, I guess. I'm not sure. But overall, my problem with her, they just make her too smart, especially for her age. I bet she seems 17 at the oldest? Maybe a little older, I guess. But overall, she seems too smart for her age, and it doesn't quite work, especially with what they kind of do with her. Maybe if they made her a bit older, maybe in her 20s and maybe 30s, I guess, make her a bit of an older person. I think that could have worked, but at her age, she just seems very smart. But at the same time, she's kind of fun. The Snickers pun is But overall, I do like some of the facts that she kind of brings some light to Black Panther, and I like that part of it, but everything else just kind of falls flat. Coming in at number 42, we have Captain Marvel. Of all the lead title characters in the MCU, just starred in their own single movie, easily my least favorite. Like, I think the next one I have, I'm looking at my list right now, is at least 20 spots up, if I'm going to be honest. Overall, I don't really care for this character that much. I've never really liked her, even when I saw her movie. I mean, she's kind of badass, I guess. Well, I mean, she is really badass, but they make her very feisty, especially in Captain Marvel in Endgame. They haven't done much to develop her. I do like her appearing in the post-credit scene of Shang-Chi. I didn't mention, but this has spoilers for the Shang-Chi and Black Widow, so sorry if you didn't realize that. You should click off the video right now because it's going to get worse and worse as you go on. Overall, I kind of enjoyed this character. She has some badass moments, especially in Endgame. But overall, they don't tell you much about her character, especially in her own movie, where she just has amnesia. All you really know about her is that she's a person with powers that you still don't really understand. You kind of start to get them a bit more in Endgame. No, I'm kidding. They don't. Overall, just kind of a character, but I think she does make some of the other characters around her a bit better, especially Nick Fury, and I kind of like she makes some of the other characters better, but she makes herself by making herself worse. I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense. Coming in number 41, we have Korg. This was a hard one to place, maybe the hardest one of all of them, because I actually really enjoy him. He's a pretty fun character. I really enjoy him in movies like in Thor Ragnarok and Endgame. I hope he appears again in the MCU. He's just a fun character that does fun things, like play Fortnite and in that scene in Endgame. He also starts like the Revengers group. He brings the ship together. He feels like a leader, and he's a really fun character. But as a hero, he doesn't do that much. Coming in number 40, we have M'Baku. Overall, this is a character I do really enjoy. He doesn't have much screen time. He has maybe 15 minutes of screen time in Black Panther and 5 minutes of screen time in Infinity War, probably less, maybe 2. But I think the time that they give him some great one-liners. I really enjoy him. I love how he kind of feels like a here comes the cavalry kind of character, especially in Black Panther. Not as good as that scene of Thor, or even overall. I still do enjoy this character. He's a really fun one. Just is not given that much screen time, and there's not much you could really do with this character at this point. Although I'm interested to see how what they could do with him in Black Panther 2. I hope he appears again. But for now, he's at number 40. Coming in at number 39 is Wong. This one's also kind of hard to place because he has so much potential to move up, and I think it's basically an interesting thing to think about with this character is kind of how do you take a sidekick of a hero from the MCU like Falcon or Doctor Strange in this case, I guess. When I say Falcon, I meant Captain America. How do you do that and then just give them a bit more to do? Wong is a good example of that. I think overall, I still really enjoy this character. I guess he has some fun one-liners, especially in Endgame, and I think he's a fun character. My one problem with him, they just haven't given him much to do. I like his appearance in Shang-Chi, and he does a lot of stuff in the original Doctor Strange. I kind of like him in Endgame. They should give him more to do in Endgame overall. But overall, this is a fun little character that hasn't done much yet, but I think will do more as the MCU goes on. And I do enjoy him, but he's at 39. 38, this is a character that's dead at this point, but I really enjoy him. That's Heimdall. This is the character that patrols the gate at Asgard. This is one I was debating whether to include or not, but I did because I feel like he does a lot of heroic things, especially in Dark World and really in all three of the Thor movies, he's being a hero, and even in Infinity War. He feels like a heroic character all throughout, and doesn't do that much, but there's a lot I feel like spoken about him, especially when you get to in original Thor. In Thor the Dark World, he's kind of similar character. I like that scene where he takes out one of the Dark Elf ships. I guess I don't really know how to describe that. And I still do enjoy this character. He's a fun character. I think Idris Elba in the MCU is just great. I really like how the actor does an amazing job with this character. And not a character that's given much due, but they don't have to. And so for what they did, I do enjoy this character. 37, another Asgardian type character, I guess. We have Valkyrie. The thing with this one, the more and more I think about it, the less and less I absolutely love her. I used to put this one, like, probably, looking at this list, I would have put her a bit higher. This is where we start to get into actually the really good characters. I really enjoy her. I think she has a lot of great one-liners. I think Tessa Thompson does a great job here. And overall, I just really enjoy this character. I mean, both her and Michael B. Jordan starred in an MCU movie never mind. He started in 2018, my bad. Overall, I really enjoy her in Thor Ragnarok. I like how she of all the Guardians, even Thor and Loki, for example, she has the biggest character arc. Like, she comes from, like, a washed-up warrior that is kind of all broken to becoming a revenger and becoming king or queen of Asgard, or of New Asgard, I guess. So, I really like this character overall, and she's done a lot for the not so little screen time she's had, I guess. I don't know. Coming number 36, we have Wasp. This is a character that I think as we go on the MCU, as they might potentially give her a character arc, I think they'll do a lot more, and this character will just shoot up the list. For now, the reason why she's so low, she hasn't had much of a character arc so far. Her only purpose is, not purpose, but the only thing keeping her from being Wasp in the first Ant-Man was just permission from her dad. I don't know. That doesn't make too much sense overall. And overall, I just think the way that I feel like she's played is like a serious version of Scott Lang. She's kind of the opposite. Just makes her not as interesting as Scott, but I cannot wait for what they could do with this character in the future. I think Evangeline Lilly does an amazing job with this character. Coming in number 35 is Monica Rambeau. She appeared back in Captain Marvel's Kid. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to do any more. It's an interesting placement that they put her in WandaVision. Of all things, of all the TV heroes, she's probably my second least favorite. I guess third if you include... never mind. Overall, I do enjoy... third if you include Quicksilver in the same show, but I don't. But overall, Monica Rambeau, I do think is actually a fun character. Kind of exemplifies sort of the, I guess, political stage of what's going on with WandaVision. She's the one that's kind of like doing this sort of thing and giving us a bunch of feedback on what's going on there, and tells the people working at that SWORD organization, or I guess she does work for SWORD, and the audience. So what they've done with her, I really liked what they've done with her in WandaVision. My one problem is, how is she like being still like being really nice to Wanda, or not being really nice, but how is she like 100% okay and kind of happy with Wanda, especially after what she's done? I get she's being empathetic, but kind of off. But I'm interested to see what they could do with this character. 34, Okoye. This is one I feel like I had a bit higher originally. But the more I think about it, she has a lot of screen time. I think she states a bunch of like the political states, I guess, of Wakanda, and how she can switch sides, and she's devoted to the throne. I really like that about her. She has a lot of badass moments, especially in Black Panther and Infinity War. Again, like Wong, I wish they did a bit more with her in Endgame, but I do think she's a really funny character with a bunch of great one-liners, and I really do enjoy this character. So, for now, yeah, 34. I don't think she'd climb any higher. I don't think she'd get any lower either, but overall, pretty fun character. I mean, number 33 with Nebula. Of all the characters I'd say are legitimately developed, I'd say this is probably the first of all of those, I guess. I don't really know. But overall, Nebula, I think is probably that her or Hawkeye is the most improved by Endgame. Before that, I didn't really care for her. I didn't really like her in the first Guardians at all, I'd say. And then the second Guardians, they didn't really have much to do with her overall, because she appears, and that's one of the scenes in the movie, and then with Gamora, I guess, and then they become friends, I guess. And it just kind of feels a little off, I'd say. And then in Infinity War, they just didn't do anything with her. And then in Endgame, I think she starts to get much more interesting as she interacts with other people rather than the Guardians of the Galaxy and her family members. So I get she becomes a much more interesting character. But at this point, there's not that much you can really do with this character anymore. One, that I don't think they could do much with her anymore. That's the reason why I don't think she can get any higher. I mean, number 32 is Melina, older generation Black Widow that sees that eventually, once she sees Natasha and Elena at a much older age, she realizes what she's done, and she wants to right her wrongs, I guess. So overall, this is a great character in Black Widow. Probably my least favorite of the 3 other heroes we got in Black Widow. But I still think she's a great character. I love what they do with her overall, like her kind of character arc, I guess. And I bet she's gonna get even more interesting as I rewatch it. But like Nebula, there's not that much you can really do with her anymore. That's the reason why I don't think she can place any higher. And overall, this is still a great character. Now, kind of bland when you look at the character overall, but what they did with the character throughout the movie was great. At number 31, we have War Machine. I think the thing with this character is, at this point, I feel like I just want more of this character. She's the opposite, or he's the opposite of, Melina and Nebula, where those two characters are kind of complete at this point. I guess they could do more with Melina, but Nebula, there's not much to do. Here, he's probably been the most underutilized character, I feel like. He's been around as long as Tony Stark in the MCU. He's been around since the first Iron Man. Hot take, before Endgame, I'd say I would have liked Terrence Howard more, but they gave him a bit more to do in Endgame. So overall, I really like what they did with him in Endgame. Give him some great one-liners. Give him his own sort of plot line involving the New Mexico. It's a small plot line, but plot line nonetheless. And then besides Iron Man and Endgame, where Iron Man you could really see them as friends, and you can kind of see the thing with them start with Rhodey getting Tony to behave, but it doesn't become as apparent until like Iron Man 2, I'd say. Iron Man 2, I don't really like Rhodey that much. And then all the other movies, I'd say he gets better and better, but especially like Iron Man 3, Age of Ultron, by then he gets better, and then they start utilizing him a bit more. But I can't not wait for his TV show, because then this character is just gonna shoot up the list. Me at number 30, we have Sylvie, an alteration variant of Loki. I really like this character, and overall, my favorite part about her is just how could Loki be different? Like what could go wrong, what could go right. And seeing this girl Loki variant, I think, is really cool. My one problem, she's kind of a straightforward character, especially with what we've known with Loki at this point. And the reason why I think what bumped her back at least like 4 or 5 spots is what they did with her in the last episode of the first season. I really did not like what they did with her. They made her fight Loki and then kind of go off her like moral viewing by killing the He Who Remains. I guess it does complete the plotline that started in episodes 2 and 3 of the show, but I don't think it ended well, and as a result, I have to drop her at least like 3 or 4 spots. Coming in number 29, we have Drax. Overall, Drax has always been a fun character since the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Just his humor involving the finger on the throat joke is really funny overall, and he's just a funny character. I love his backstory. You don't really get to see it much, but for what it is, it's great, involving Ronan killing his family, or really even Ronan and Thanos killing his family. All that's great. My problem with them is that when you get to Guardians 2, there's just so many dirty jokes in there that it just doesn't really work. And then when you get to Infinity War and Endgame, he's just on the mindset that he wants to kill Thanos. He's still really funny through all of it. I just really enjoy him. But still, and especially because in Infinity War and Endgame, he was fake killed twice and killed twice. And Drax wasn't involved in at least three of those. One of them it kind of was, but still. So my problem with this character is that he's just on the mindset of just killing Thanos, and since the original Guardians of the Galaxy like Star-Lord, they haven't really figured out what to do with him, but I still really enjoyed him. Coming in at number 28, we have Star-Lord. I actually really enjoy this character, especially in the first Guardians. He's pretty good in Infinity War. I like that scene in Endgame where he thinks that's the Gamora that he all know and loved. And I think that's kind of funny. Overall, I really enjoyed this character as a whole. I think Star-Lord is a pretty fun character. My one problem with him, what they do with him in Guardians and Infinity War, it doesn't quite work because they give him powers and then they take it away. And then you just have him being kind of unlikable throughout Infinity War. And the worst part, he's the reason that Thanos literally got all of 5 Infinity Stones, was able to kill half the universe, I guess. First time was on the ship. Gamora literally asked to die to save everybody else, and Star-Lord was dumb enough so he couldn't do it, especially taking his own life now. Which, last time I checked, I feel like his character arc's kind of weird, because back in like the original Guardians of the Galaxy, he just wanted to survive, and then he didn't care much about anyone. And then Guardians 2, they don't really tap into that at all. And then this movie, he's completely like, I'll die for you, Gamora. And there's not much sex in it, so like, it just doesn't quite work. Coming in at number 27, this is one character that's not been what I'd say. She's only in like one movie, and then she has like a cameo in Endgame, and I think she's in Ant-Man too. And overall, I do really like what they've done with this character as Steve's love, and I really just enjoy her. I don't have any problems with this character. It's just they haven't just done that much with her, except her being Steve's love, and she's really pivotal to the entire MCU and Steve Rogers sort of not really character arc, but him becoming the man he becomes. His sacrifice. She's the one. She's kind of like, I wouldn't say the author, but sort of like the person kind of behind, other than like her and Nick Fury seem like the people kind of behind the scenes on the MCU. Like she has her own one shot. She has, I think she has a TV show too. I haven't watched it, but if you've seen it, let me know in the comments how it is. And they've done a lot with this character without having that much screen time. And she's appeared in Endgame, and I think she's in Ant-Man, so and I really like that. They've done a lot with this character, and that's what I want to see. 26, the first of 4 Captain Americas, I guess. The Russian Captain America. I'll talk in a Russian accent throughout this. No, just kidding. Overall, I really enjoy this character. I think he's so much fun. He's kind of like what I kind of like the novelty of him just being kind of clueless in what he's doing, and I just think he's such a fun character. This is a character I wish that we got to see him a bit more throughout the movie, doing a bit more like fighting, especially with that serum. I feel like you could have done a bit more. But I feel like at the same time, I just thought this character was hilarious. His jokes pretty much worked every time he was shown doing a joke, I guess, and I really enjoyed this character, and I thought he was a phenomenal character, and I really enjoyed him. 25, we have John Walker, the second Captain America. This one, or I guess Captain America or U.S. Agent, or Captain America 2 or 3 or whatever. I really enjoy this character in Falcon the Winter Soldier. Wyatt Russell, I do think, does a great job playing this sort of, I guess, I wouldn't say broken, that's a bit of a stretch, but sort of like guy that's had a kind of a rough past in like the past like 5 years with that whole thing that they mentioned in Afghanistan. But I think that he's a really interesting character, and what drives him is probably the most interesting part about it. And overall, I think he's a really interesting character. I think the way they ended his character arc in Falcon the Winter Soldier worked pretty well for me. And overall, throughout the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he's probably my favorite part of it. This or the racism sort of deal, I guess. One of those two is probably my favorite. He's my second favorite part of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think he's a great character. 24, Pepper Potts, Tony Stark's hero. Pretty interesting character throughout the MCU. I would have included her on this list anyway. I'd say since Iron Man 3, if I'm going to be honest. Pretty awesome character, I would say. I really enjoy her throughout the MCU. As Tony's hero, beginning from the original Iron Man, kind of being involved throughout Tony Stark's character arc. Iron Man 2, I think she's kind of unlikable. Iron Man 3, I think that's when they really started to get into this character. I like some of the relationship drama and her just wanting sort of a normal life and Tony to kind of get a grip on himself. I kind of like that side about her. And overall, I think the next time she appears is in Infinity War. I actually really like her in Infinity War. I like what they did with her, sort of, but I mean, she's in like a scene, but I kind of like what they were trying to do, especially after what happened in movies like Age of Ultron, where like Tony did something insane and then she doesn't want anything else to happen, or even other movies like the original Avengers, the first Iron Man 3. You kind of see her and get involved, especially by Endgame, where they have 5 years to live. I guess 5 years to live, just 5 years apiece, where they have a kid, and they're just really enjoying the life. And the Tony Pepper relationship, it's had its ups and downs throughout the MCU, and I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed this character. My one problem with her is her in the Endgame finale. It doesn't make much sense, which especially after the scene where Morgan has the helmet on and Tony mentions she doesn't like anything, she won't wear anything I buy her. It just feels kind of weird. But other than that, great character. Coming in at number 23 of Mobius and Mobius, or Agent and Mobius and Mobius. I guess. Overall, I really enjoy this character. Owen Wilson is amazing, so charismatic in the role. He's pretty funny. I love the banter between Mobius and Loki. It's just amazing. Works so well in this show. I cannot wait to see what they do with him more. I just love this character, especially the novelty of the whole jet ski thing is so much fun. When he gets pruned, it's kind of emotional because he doesn't know what happens, and I think what they've set up, and especially because like even Loki starts to be like, no, I guess. And I just really like this character. It's such a fun character overall, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him. I hope he appears in other things besides Loki season 1 and 2, or however many seasons they're gonna do. Coming in number 22, we have Vision. This is a tough one to place because real Vision would have placed much lower. I think he would have placed probably between, I'd say even as low as just between Heimdall and Wong, 38 and 39. But with WandaVision, he bumped up over 25 spots, like 27 or 26 and a half spots. That's a lot. And I just really enjoyed, 16 and a half. That sounds better. Overall, anyway, enough. Vision, I just enjoy a lot. I thought he was a great character overall. I still really like him in Age of Ultron. Showing right off the bat that he's worthy of Mjolnir is great. But besides that, in Civil War, they don't do much with him except really show his powers, I guess. I do like that part about him. I like his relationship with Wanda and Civil War. But in Infinity War, he just doesn't do that much except pretty much be in a lab the whole time and give us some more information on the Mind Stone. Other than that, he just doesn't much in Infinity War. What they do with him in WandaVision is great. I love seeing fake Vision. I thought Paul Bettany is probably at his best throughout WandaVision. Really fun, and I don't have any problems with him in WandaVision, but I just think I wish they did more with Real Vision. He's a fun character, probably my second favorite character on just WandaVision, and I really enjoyed this character. Coming in number 21, we have Yelena. As a newer generation Black Widow, she's a really great character. I love how they kind of start off with this character and her sort of being Black Widow's, I guess, surrogate sister. That's not really a good way to put it. But overall, really enjoyed this character. I love her humor. It really works for me. Really, all the characters' humor in this movie, especially Red Guardian and Yelena, really work for me. I don't have any problems with this character. I cannot wait to see what they do with her throughout Phase 4 and Phase 5, maybe. So, I think this is a great character, and I cannot wait to see what they do with her. Especially now that Black Widow is not alive anymore. I think they could probably promote her a bit more, and I cannot wait to see what they do with her. Kicking out the top 20, we have Falcon. I really like this character, especially after Falcon and Winter Soldier. Before that, he would have been like Vision, he would have been much lower. But with Falcon and Winter Soldier, they decided to do a lot more with him, give him his own side story involving family, what he's gonna do for life, and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that about him. And I do think before that, especially after watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, this whole thing being his sidekick between Captain America and Winter Soldier and Endgame, I think kind of makes it so that once they promote him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, he can stand on his own and not live in the life of Steve. And he kind of learns that through the show. So I'm okay with what they did earlier. This makes it okay, unlike Vision. Overall, I really enjoyed this character. I thought he was a ton of fun, especially in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And the character arc they gave him really worked for me. And especially his novelty through racism in the show, I think made him even better. And the way he kind of made the character of Isaiah Bradley even happier than he already was. That was just kind of sweet. Coming in at number 19 of Bakir, or the Winter Soldier. I really enjoy this character. From Captain America the First Adventure all the way down line to Falcon the Winter Soldier. I really enjoy this character. I think then when you see him in between Captain America the Winter Soldier and Infinity War, I really like this character because of what they did with him and seeing him figure out stuff as you go along. And once you get to Infinity War and Endgame and and Falcon the Winter Soldier, I really that's when I start to enjoy this character. And then eventually realize what's he gonna do now that he's had a big body count from the past 20 to 30 years. I don't really know. And overall, I love what they did with him in Falcon the Winter Soldier. I gotta stop. And overall, I really enjoy this character. I thought he was great. My one problem with him, throughout the MCU, he's been kind of like a silent character. You don't really know what's going on with him. and then even Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, they kind of paused his character arc in, like, the middle of the show. Then they brought it back in, like, episode 5. They stopped it after episode 2, continued it in episode 5 and on. And I do really like his character arc about him making amends to people that people related to or know people that he's killed. I think that's really interesting. I'm interested to see more of this character. Number 18, Shang-Chi. Before you keep going, this is going to contain a spoiler, so skip to the next couple minutes at most. Overall, I really enjoy this character. He's kind of bland. His personality, I think he bounces off of Awkwafina so well. That's one of the best aspects of this movie. You can go check out my review. And overall, just Shang-Chi as a character, pretty fun. Love his backstory, his novelty as a whole of being this hero and him trying to right his father's wrongs. That's a very interesting thing about him. He kind of starts to do that. And the fact that he gets the 10 rings in the end is really satisfying. There are two things that set him back. Like I mentioned earlier, he's kind of a bland character, but he does bounce off other characters, especially Awkwafina, like, really well. And two, we've only seen him in one movie, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him more, and what they do more with him, and I'm really excited for that. Number 17, Gamora. I think this is the character. If Hawkeye and Nebula are the most improved characters from Infinity War or Endgame, then Gamora would probably be the most improved character from Infinity War. What they did with her, especially after the first 2 Guardians movies, which you kind of saw her sort of ties to Thanos, but you didn't really know much about her. Infinity War 100% fleshes out her backstory, makes her a really interesting character, and figures out what she knows and what she kind of doesn't. And that makes her really interesting, especially all the stuff involving the Soul Stone map. That was really interesting. And overall, I just really enjoy this character as a whole, and I thought she really worked for me. My one problem, like a couple of the other ones, like Shang-Chi and Black Panther, you'll see coming up later, she's kind of straightforward and not the most colorful personality. But I think what they did with this character was great. At number 16, we have Hawkeye. Not the most interesting character on the outside because they haven't done much with him until Endgame, really. Because back in the first Avengers and Age of Ultron, he was really sidelined because for half the movie he was kind of being antagonistic to the Avengers, because Loki brainwashed him. In Age of Ultron, you learn that he's a completely normal man outside when he's not doing heroic stuff, I guess. So, still not the most interesting character. Once you get to Endgame, he makes what Thanos did pretty much personal. Like, it's really interesting what they start to do with him as you go on the MCU, and I'm really excited for his TV show. I didn't do a trailer reaction because that's when I was that's when I was gonna go watch Shang-Chi. I don't remember when his trailer came out. I think like a week ago. But overall, I really enjoy this character. I thought he was a really fun one, especially in Endgame, and I cannot wait to see what they do with him in the show. And Endgame really put this character up higher. And I do like his character arc involving him being Ronin with the sword, killing people in Korea or Japan, wherever he is. And that's really interesting, and this character is really interesting. 15, Nick Fury. I don't really have any problems with Nick Fury. The one thing I just think, by Far From Home, I feel like this character just starts becoming a liability at this point, rather than a really interesting character. But what they do with him between the original Iron Man and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or really I'd say Age of Ultron, it's just really interesting. The way this character is kind of working behind the scenes and trying to manipulate things is really interesting overall. And especially, he's like I would say if you want to compare him to a DCU character, he's like a hero version of Amanda Waller, if I had to put it one way. And he does pretty heroic things. He puts heroes together. He leads S.H.I.E.L.D., and he does it well. I love what they did with him and Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and the original Avengers. Him being the foundation of the Avengers hero team as a whole. And then in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, they start to flesh him out a little bit and start having him just work kind of on the outside with Captain America. I love all of that stuff, and that's really interesting to me. And this character, pretty awesome throughout. Coming in at number 14, we have Original Groot. Overall, as a whole, this character should not work. Like, having a talking tree in not what I would call a serious movie should not work. But it does. They gave this character a lot to do. And overall, I just really enjoy it. I don't really have any problems with OG Groot. I love his sacrifice. The sappy line is, "We are Groot." Shouldn't work, but it does. And the depth of this character is pretty emotional. The way it affects Rocket's pretty interesting. And the replacement with New Groot is kind of a disappointment. And OG Groot is always going to be better. Number 13, we have Yondu. An alright character in the original Guardians. He's still kind of fun, gives some pretty good one-liners. But when you get to Guardians 2, where he becomes the hero that he is, and that pretty great Mary Poppins impression was pretty fun too. They start to kind of flesh him out, especially with Taserface being so just cruel and evil and all that stuff, that it kind of fleshes out Yondu a bit. It makes him a much more compelling character as a whole. I really just enjoy him in Guardians 2, and what they do with him as a whole just works so well. And the way and the depth to this character, like the original Groot, is pretty emotional. I put him ahead just because pretty much he's just, he talks. That's the only reason. And original Groot, I mean, I'd say the original Groot death is slightly more emotional. They're both pretty emotional. And the way Yondu kind of contributed to Star-Lord's life is really interesting because in general, Yondu is his actual father when you think about it. Coming in at number 12, we have Black Panther. To be honest, I think kind of like Shang-Chi and Gamora, kind of a bland personality, but what they do with them, especially in movies like Civil War, Black Panther, and Infinity War, I really like what they did with him. They kind of give him like a bit of a character arc in Black Panther, and he's really badass in Captain Civil War and Infinity War, and I really like that about him. My one problem is just his personality. I haven't really done much. He doesn't have much flavor to him. I think, like Shang-Chi, a lot of the other characters around him, like Okoye, Shuri, or even Killmonger, I would say have a bit more of a personality as a whole, and it makes T'Challa kind of fall flat. But overall, fantastic character, and I really liked what they did with him throughout the MCU. Coming in at number 11, we have Rocket Raccoon. This is a character that in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I really like him because of like how kind of insecure he is in his insecurities. They do this throughout both the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. My problem with it's basically kind of the same kind of character, but my problem with the way they did in the second one is that they make him very self-destructive, and his insecurities kind of stand out a bit more, so it's kind of frustrating. Once you get to Infinity War and Endgame, he becomes legit funny, and especially when you get to Endgame where he's like, he cares about his family, like he finally, like, he cares about people. Like, in the first Guardians, you're like, this guy is, my one problem with him, he's like a lot of the other Guardians of the Galaxy, specifically like Star-Lord, he doesn't really care about anybody. And by Endgame, he's like, I lost all my family members. And that's really interesting. I've always loved this character, even since the first Guardians of the Galaxy, but he gets better and better as you go on. Even in Guardians 2, when he was just being self-destructive, she was still great character that topped the show for me. At number 10, we have Wanda Maximoff. This is one of the characters that I think, like a bunch of them so far, have been bumped up because of the TV shows. She was a bit lower because they haven't really done much with her, but this movie or show specifically, WandaVision, makes her feel like she feels like so broken. She's lost the two people that she loves the most, both Quicksilver and Vision. And as I mentioned with Quicksilver, because they killed him off, it kind of provoked Wanda to be pretty broken. Even in Civil War, she was still pretty broken. And then especially once by the time you get to Endgame and in WandaVision, she's just really broken, and then she just doesn't know what to do. So she takes this town hostage just so she can have a great rest of her life or get to what she wants. And I think that's really interesting about her. And this has always been a great character, pretty powerful character, especially when you get to WandaVision. You see what she does, and the way other characters around her react to it is just really interesting. Other stuff, I really liked her in Infinity War and Endgame. She had an amazing throwdown with Thanos in Endgame. I thought, and it caused him to have to rain fire on his own soldiers, or especially the Avengers. And then, you know what, Captain Marvel shows up. So yeah, pretty much. Overall, I've always really liked this character. Pretty awesome character, even back in Age of Ultron. And overall, comes in at number 10. And number 9, we have Doctor Strange, a character that kind of started off sort of alright. Like in the first Doctor Strange, I thought he was all kind of okay. Since Thor Ragnarok, in the 4 things that he's appeared in, he's appeared in Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and the What If episode. I just really loved him in all of those, especially What If. Like, you could really see like what drives this character. I think the What If episode perfectly added on to what we learned from this character. A couple of them I don't think have done much for a bunch of the characters that they're talking about. Specifically looking at it, a good example is the Peggy Carter character. Like, she still seems like kind of like the same person as she does in Captain America: The First Avenger. But I really find what they did with Doctor Strange in the What If episode super interesting. It's probably my favorite one so far. And overall, I think what they did with him throughout these movies, he's been such a scene stealer throughout, especially in Infinity War. The way he bounces off Tony Stark is great. I like him and Wong's sort of dynamic, and the way he relates to some other characters, the way he interacts with other characters is amazing. And overall, his power set, in general, the whole mythology of Doctor Strange and sort of like a wizarding world to the MCU is just really interesting. And I really like this character. I cannot wait to see what they do with him further on. Coming in number 8, Thor. I just think this is just such a fun little character. That is Thor. He's not little. There are two there. Actually, Thor and my number 7 are kind of tied, but overall, Thor, my biggest problem with them, they just written him inconsistently. But overall, as they've gone on, even though he's been kind of inconsistent, you just see him become, I feel like in each movie, a lot of the versions that they play Thor as do fit the movie, especially once you get to Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, or not Endgame, but Infinity War and Ragnarok. I just like what they do with Thor as a whole. I don't like the way they write him from movie to movie. It doesn't quite work. But overall, I really like this character because he's funny. I think Chris Hemsworth does just amazing comedic timing as a whole. The way he bounces off other characters is also really good. So like some of the other Avengers, like Black Widow, Thor, and Hawkeye, I think are the best examples of this. They're good because of the way they bounce off characters. That's why I think I like Thor a lot more in the Avengers movies than in his solo movies. Overall, fantastic character. Another one, I think they kind of capped him off, but I'm excited to see what they can do with him in the future. Number 7, this is probably one of the more straightforward characters. This is the one I was kind of tough to put in. The Doctor Strange, Thor, and Ant-Man are kind of tied, but overall, I think Ant-Man is just such a fun character. Scott Lang, I think Paul Rudd is just so charismatic, and he's so much fun on screen as a whole. He's a great actor in general, and what they did with him just really worked. He plays a sweet character. The character just fits him as a whole. I really like the dynamic. His dynamic he has with other characters. He doesn't have much of a character arc in the first Ant-Man, but it doesn't really matter because overall, I just think he's a great character. He brings so much to scenes. I think especially when Endgame, when he just adds to things, it's just kind of fun as a whole. Sometimes it can be cringy, like the whole scene with Professor Hulk in the bar, but more of them are more impactful than you think. And as a whole, I really like this character. He's funny, he's fun, and he's interesting. Coming in at number 6, we have Black Widow. This one was also kind of tough to place because what done with this character has been super interesting. Unlike some of the other characters where I think they kind of gone like this and this, with this, Black Widow's done this. Like that, the whole thing. And then like Star-Lord is a good example of the first thing, but whatever. I think what they've done with it, Black Widow, the movie, kind of helped flesh out. It kind of reminds me of like Bucky's character arc a little bit in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where she wants to kind of make amends and right her wrongs that she made in many years past. So the way they kind of develop her a little bit in Black Widow is interesting. She doesn't have much of a character arc in the movie, but that's okay. My one problem with this character is that the only problem with killing her off, she's had a lot developed to her character, but because of the way they developed her really slowly. She hasn't really had much of a character arc. Her character arc, I think, would have been happening even before, like, way before Iron Man 2, which is, I wish the Black Widow movie did that, but whatever. And overall, I really do enjoy this character. She bounces off characters really nicely. And that's, I think, the main thing I like about her. So that's why I don't think her solo movie worked as well. Because I think the best parts about the reason why I think she kind of fell flat in the movie is because I think she makes other characters better, and the other characters make her better. That's kind of the most interesting thing about her, and I really like her as a character because they do a lot to develop her as a whole in the MCU. And her death was actually pretty emotional. Coming in at number 5, this one I just think they gave him a character arc. Well, at least kind of. And that's the Hulk. Overall, from Incredible Hulk all the way to that post-credit scene in Shang-Chi, I thought Hulk has always been a great character. I don't really have any problems with him. I didn't love Professor Hulk. I think I don't even think that without him, but I still think he's kind of fun. I love all the faces of the Hulk, seeing him. I think they kind of developed this character, but the way they've developed it has been kind of interesting as Bruce Banner is figuring other things out from the Hulk as a whole. Like, it kind of starts with him trying to get rid of it, but as you see, I feel like they develop in every movie that the Hulk is in, they just develop it more and more. Mark Ruffalo, I think, just does a great job in the role. And also, I'm interested to see what happens next with him because he looked human in Shang-Chi. I don't know if that was a mistake or something, but he looked human. I wonder how that's going to turn out. Coming in at number 4, we have your one and only friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Of all 3 actors, I think Tom Holland might be my favorite. He's just such a good job with the character. He plays the character with so much energy and fun and entertainment to him that I just fall in love with this character right away since Homecoming. I like his character arc in Homecoming involving him sort of trying to realize that, you know what, maybe I should be more of this friendly neighborhood Spider-Man than this Avenger that for some reason I want to be. Not a good way to put it, but you know what I mean. And overall, they've just done a decent amount of stuff to develop him. By Infinity War, they kind of make him an Avenger. I really like what he's just a fun character. He enlightens himself at the right scenes. I wish he had survived the blip because because I think him working with the Avengers could have been so much fun. Especially, I bet him and Ant-Man would have bounced off each other really nicely. That would have been so much fun. I wish he survived the blip, and it could have created for some fun scenario. And I think that would have been nice. So overall, fantastic character. Also, Peter Parker's kind of a tough character not to get right because he's just so fun and like. Coming in number 3, probably the most complex character on this list, maybe other than Wanda, I would say is Loki. Loki is just such a great character. Since the original Thor, I think he's just great. Avengers, he's great. He just gets better and better as he appears. And by Thor the Dark World, he's starting to become kind of good. And then Thor Ragnarok, he kind of flips all the way to good. And then into Infinity War where he sacrifices himself. What puts him up probably at least like 10 spots, probably more than that, is what they did with him in the show Loki. Overall, just this character is just really complex as a whole. And so you could see what drives him. You really learn that in Loki, what drives him, what his whole glorious purpose is, and what he lives off of. You didn't really get to see that much in the other movies. You kind of saw it in Thor Ragnarok. It wasn't really tapped into with this. And also seeing all the Loki variants and seeing what could have been different about all of this is just really interesting, especially by the end of the show becoming a hero. I don't remember which episode he mentioned this in, but he said, I think I'm done with the whole being a bad guy sort of thing. So of all the characters, he's probably the least good, I'd say, if I have to put it one way. But I think they've done so much development throughout the MCU, and then I think he's just such a good character. Tom Hiddleston also does a fantastic job with this character, and I think he makes the top 3. My runner-up, Steve Rogers. I think Steve Rogers is just an amazing character from Captain America: The First Avenger all the way till Endgame, and I love how they keep developing him from him being kind of sort of just like your normal, like, kind of war hero, I guess, from the Captain America: The First Avenger, and then into the Avengers, where he's starting to get used to this world, still kind of living off of what happened back in, like, the 1940s, and his like, soldier mind sort of thing, and I think that's just really interesting, especially the way that plays into Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where he's just like, the government is not, or the world is not what it once was. It's much more complicated now, and that I find that really interesting. And then especially as you go on to Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, especially by the time you get to Endgame, when he just decides, after he's done so much for the world, done since Captain America: The First Avenger, as he's been alive, I would say that takes up like at least 10, 15 years of his life. If you discount all the stuff between if you discount all the stuff when he's frozen, I guess. But overall, really enjoy what they've done with this character. Chris Evans does a fantastic job, and I think this character is at number 2. But number 1, not really a question for me. Well, Steve Rogers is coast. It is my boy Tony Stark, the Iron Man. Okay, that sounded better in my head. Overall, just an amazing character. I love what they've done with him since the original Iron Man. Pepper's been around since then, kind of helping Tony along. And Tony, his character in the Iron Man, I think would even just put him at least at number 3. But what they've done with him is just so good. Iron Man 2, I thought he was kind of off. Then, like, Avengers and Iron Man 3, I thought he was so just making wisecracks after wisecracks. It was just so much fun. Even in the Age of Ultron is really where you start to see the flaws of Tony Stark. And, like, him building this pretty dangerous AI and then seeing it go wrong. And then that leads into Civil War where he decides to restrain himself and sign the Soviet Accords. And then as you get into Infinity War, you see him kind of reliving, I guess, sort of some of the events from the first Avengers, where you see him interacting with some of these alien creatures like Thanos and his children, I guess. And then some other stuff involved, and then other stuff like an Endgame. Like, I'm so happy he survived the blip, because in Endgame when he decided to give himself 5 years apiece, with him and Pepper have a child, and then all of that. I just think that works so well. And then him kind of getting back into this hero life, becoming a hero, saving the day by killing Thanos and doing the snap. I just love this character. His death is emotional. It pays off so well. It's really satisfying, and I just love this character, and he comes in at number 1. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is a long video to film. This took me a long time. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.